procedure. So getting back to a couple of those areas, like this is the example of the undercontoured bladder that we were able to show you or to detect, and this was an example of an overcontoured nodal contour that the QA2 system picked up. One last piece of information I just wanted to sort of tease everybody's appetite with is looking at the dosimetric impact of contouring variability. There is not a lot of data with regards to this in the literature. There is some, and Ben Nelms has actually done some of that and has published that in, I think, in the poster form, and maybe that hopefully will be coming out in manuscript form soon. But we actually took some of the data from the contouring challenge and then propagated that with a 5-field IMRT scripted plan with Pinnacle, and then planned all of those in a very similar fashion, put all the dosimetry back onto the staple contours in order to compare plans. And then we actually looked at the actual ramifications of that variation with regards to prostate, bladder, and rectal DVH. And so that's what we've done. We haven't finished this work entirely, but we do have some interesting initial data. Once again, you can see some of the variation that's seen in terms of the contouring. This just has to do with the fact that we actually this is the staple default dosimetry. We basically used RTOG criteria to make sure we were within dose limits. So when we let everything vary, you can actually see that there is some variation here with regards to GTV coverage or PTV coverage. Well, actually it's prostate coverage. And then there is variability with regards to the bladder DVH and rectal DVH. We were interested to try to tease apart what was happening with regards to this system. So we did a situation where we let the GTV contours vary, and then we just planned that based on the different GTV contours, and then used a common set of bladder and rectal contours with the staple algorithm. And what you can see is if you let the GTV vary, there's still considerable variation in the bladder and rectal DVHs. And you can still, once again, see the GTV variation. If you let the rectum vary, you can see somewhat less, but there is still some variation in terms of the prostate coverage. There is variance in terms of the rectal DVH, but minimal or no variance in terms of bladder. And in terms of the bladder, interestingly enough, based on the amount of variation that there was very little impact in terms of bladder, rectum, and GTV. So this actually has got us thinking about whether or not there is actually a hierarchy of contours. So in this simple system, and once again, this is all new for us. We think that based on the planning that was done and the contouring variation that exists, that the amount of variation in the GTV is paramount. That drives your DVH differences with regards to the propagated DVH differences. Rectum, with its close proximity to the prostate, is in the middle. It's more of a moderate effect. And then the interesting thing is that we found that bladder had virtually little or no impact in terms of dosimetry. So, which makes us believe that if you have good auto contouring technologies for bladder, maybe we don't need to be spending a lot of time editing bladders to get actually representative DVH. But then again, on the other side of things, we should be spending more time on GTV and rectum as more higher priority items. So this leads into further research questions that we're interested in. Can we refine our crisis penalty metrics to take into account these dosimetric differences and further adapt them with regards to this concept of hierarchy of contouring? To look at more issues with regards to teaching interventions and looking at contouring improvement over time as opposed to a one-off like we did last summer. To expand our multiply contoured data sets in order to assess various compliance and outlier contours in a quality assurance mode. Also, we're interested in to actually do a formal systematic review in the future with regards to best practices. So ultimately, I'd like to acknowledge our contouring team internally, Dr. Bauman, Dr. Batista, Jeff Kemp, and Carol Johnson, as well as some of the individuals that have just joined me here, Dr. Louie and Dr. Velker. And also want to thank Neil Miller from Standard Imaging for all of the support, Ben Nelms from Canis Lupus, and Radiation Oncology Resources. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Rodrigues. Real quickly, I'm gonna bring up the structure software, do a quick demonstration with that, and then we'll open up for questions. So let's see. Just got to take back control here.